Oof, that was, wait, yeah, that's what I want. Hey, this is the Higher Fish. My name is Patrick. Welcome. So today, I kind of want to do something that um, I thought. Let me just. So first, what I'm going to be doing is splitting these in between majors, minors, and court cards. And I want to do something like this. Oh wow, the Emperor and the Empress and the High Priestess were all together. I didn't know that. Oh yeah, I'm not using OBS today, so there we go. And I'm not 100% sure what I want to do. Should aces? I'm gonna put aces with the court cards because it just feels right. I know they have some like majors only decks, and someone was talking about a majors only deck, and it got me thinking about doing something with only majors. The 6 and the 7 of cups are also together. And then the Fool is coming out right after. How are y'all doing today? I hope you're doing well. I never I never ask. Well, I always mention it at the end, but I guess I should open with it too. I'll open with it at the top, and then we'll revisit it at the end and see if you feel any better. If I made you feel worse, probably the latter these days, if we're being quite frank and honest. Um, but yeah, last night I actually. Okay, well, this morning I slept. I went to bed at like 5 something, but actually, like, I don't know if I'm like, or was more tired or if I was actually getting some sleep because it's kind of sort of hit and miss uh, these days. And that Capricorn eclipse is coming soon. So I'm expecting to be sleeping better after that. Okay. I guess I just need to remember which pile is which. And I'm using 2 decks. I wish I had 2 decks that were like colorful and expressive, like the Witch's Tarot. But I might, because I have quite a few. Okay. Let's just, well, I wanted to slide down, so. And then we'll get one of these. This will be a trial run of whatever. And I'll do it this versus that. Not this versus that. Again, I don't know what I'm doing today. Today I'm just on here for funsies. So it shouldn't be too heavy, shouldn't be too serious. I went live on my Legacy channel last night. Low key, not a fan. I don't know. I don't know why, but it's just like the energies they're different over there. And I feel like I guess I could have taken it as a challenge to engage my voice regardless, but I feel a little more muted over there. Or like I have to self censor more or something. I don't know. It's weird. I wasn't expecting it. So we got this 10 of Pentacles though. So this will be interesting. So the court card is kind of going to be like us. The minor is going to be an area and the major is going to be whatever the major is, right? And I didn't know if I wanted to do court major and then minor or court minor and then major. We'll see if it makes a difference. Okay, let's get a major. And I don't know, I just feel like doing something random today. So that's what I'm doing. I was in the bed for quite a while. It was really nice. I feel like I dreamed about something. One of them was quite interesting, I guess. Okay, I'll give this 5 more. And then we'll just take that one since you almost came out. So 10 of Pentacles. This is an area of abundance, material abundance. Ten of Pentacles, Ten of Pentacles. What else could this be? I also like thinking a little bit more outside the box sometimes. I'd like to think the Ten of Pentacles is related to our ability to make manifest the things that we feel in the spirit, right? In some ways. Um, let's just go because the Ace of Cups with the Ten of Pennies. What's the major though? Oh, is it gonna be good? I'm scared. I'm Judgment. Okay, that's not terrible. So with the Ace of Cups, the Ten of Pentacles, and Judgment, I feel like this is giving me like heavy um familial relationship vibes. Kind of sort of the people that we live with. With Judgment and the Ace of Cups. Well, with the Ace of Cups, this speaks to new levels of connection and commitment that have been unlocked. The Ten of Pentacles is I'm feeling it as family now. This is very familial. Also in the space of legacy. So what we do that we leave behind for others, or what it's kind of sort of like the Six of Pentacles, but it's bringing other people into it rather than like just giving it away. And then we have the Judgment right here, the Judgment card. Um, it honestly feels like Spirit removing people from our lives, or giving us the opportunity to remove people from our lives through whatever is expressed. To remove or to add. It can go either way. To remove or add people to our lives based upon whether or not they sort of vibe with whatever this Ace of Cups moment is. And if we follow this up, you would have the Son of Pentacles. So this may be more of us like building our own families, or the lines below us, more so than like our parents. Um, with the Four of Pentacles and the Hierophant. So yeah, it kind of sort of goes back to quarantine. I mean, like a lot of stuff might right now, especially with this Judgment energy. Like we've been in the position again to really evaluate who we want to build with in our lives. With this Four of Pentacles, I'm feeling it as like there are some, like we're tied to family through the blood, but there's also chosen family. Like, right, family it's the people that we're born with a genetic connection to. Or it could even be like, so in my family, we don't necessarily do like step and half. It's just like family is family. So a step father, a step sibling is a father or a sibling. Um, and there are people who were like married into the family, and even when they got divorced, they remained family. Um, that's one of the things that I guess I really like about my family. But at the same time, it's like we don't necessarily have to stay tied and connected to toxic family members, because we can create our own. And especially with the Son of Pentacles, this is more us creating our own family. And so there may have been some where there was too much tension for there to be real harmony. But I think this is more so talking about the family that we want to create for ourselves. And with this Judgment and this Ace of Cups new understanding, it should reflect something, some of the growth that we've recently been through, at the very least. So I think I like this. We'll see. I just want to get this little shuffle up, even though there's not too much. And then I'll get the other one, and we'll see what's up. This is your light side. This is your dark side. Make them play nice. Two of Pentacles and a Six of Cups were at the cut. Now it's the Six of Wands and the Two of Pentacles. So balancing, again, those ties, those memories, the past. Now it's the Six of Pentacles with the Two of Wands. What's up? Victory, the past, balance, and movement forward. It's like it's not enough to just like surface level connections aren't necessarily enough now, because as we've seen before, you can have those and not be treated that great by some people. And some people are like, family above anything, always and forever, no matter what. But I'm the type of person, if somebody is toxic, they're toxic and they're getting cut out. I don't necessarily have too much time or patience for toxic people, regardless of if it's family or not. That's just, who I am, I guess. Maybe a little cold, but at the same time, it's not worth my peace. So my peace is something that I treasure and I value. Let's turn these upside down. These are the ones that came out yesterday. Oh, this is a court. A lot of these, because some of these I don't necessarily know right off the bat. The Six of Wands with the Six of Pentacles. And we just saw, no, it was the Six of Wands and the Six of Cups. Those were the sixes that we just saw. And then here's this Eight of Wands right here. Oh, nice. And with the Eight of Pentacles, 66 and 88. What the, what? Wait, is this the night? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to turn these up right. Nope. Because then, oh, goodness. Let me stop complaining. The Wheel of Fortune with the Hangman, though. Ooh, where does this go? We'll put it right over there. First, you take your leg and stick it in the air, and then you take your other one. Songs from my childhood just pop into my head sometimes. First, you take your leg and stick it in the air, and then you take the other one and put it right up there. Y'all remember that episode of SpongeBob when SpongeBob took Pearl to the prom because Mr. Krabs told him to or something? Long, tan, and handsome. That song popped into my head yesterday. This is the part of the video that's really riveting and fascinating and very entertaining. I feel like let's try to fill the silence. No, actually, let's take the silence for what it is and just take a moment to breathe, chill, and reflect if need be, but just to be a little still. All right, so the Star, the Six of Cups, and the Ace of Swords were the last cards out. Interesting. So this is going to be two sides to the same situation. It could be two different people when it comes to certain matters. It could be a person in the environment. It could be you within you, especially if you got mutable in your chart. You know, your head versus your heart. Anything of the sort, of the like, of the kind. What is this? Oh, that Knight of Swords. But that's like every time I see that Knight of Swords, I'm like, this knight isn't like going anywhere. Like you're supposed to be one of the fastest. But also the Knight of Swords isn't extremely impulsive. Not as impulsive as the Knight of Wands. And so the Knight of Swords won't necessarily move if it doesn't make sense to. Because it's still like it's air, right? It's analytical, it's reasoning. It's not as practical as the Knight of Pentacles would be, but it is just as sort of deliberate is the word that comes to mind, and it's kind of deliberate, but it's more like purpose. It's just as purposeful. Um, the Knights of Cups and the Knight of Wands, the Knights of Cups and Wands, like they'll move based off of feelings or based off of desires, right? When it comes to Swords and Pentacles, it's something a little bit more, right? So with Swords and Pentacles, it's almost like there's an element of a calling or a mission instead of just, this is what I want and I'm going to go out and get it. Goodness. Oh, that was a fail. I kind of want to just like slow down a little bit, like chill out. Okay. So, in general, we'll say that the top is the masculine, the head, or the dark. The bottom will be the feminine, the heart, or the white. Just because like these are more like black and white, straightforward. These are more colorful. So Father of Swords, which is King of Swords energy. Should I be surprised? Oh my gosh, he's back. I get away from the King of Swords for a few days and then he just popped right back up. And the Ten of Pentacles again. Somebody knows what they want and they're about to move on it. Not only do they know what they want and are they about to move on it, but they know why they want it. Because the King of Swords energy is like, okay. So with the High Priestess and the King of Swords, this is interesting. So up here, it's like someone was innately drawn to whatever this Ten of Pentacles situation moment is, but they didn't necessarily know why. And intuition isn't enough for the King of Swords to move because the King of Swords is more deliberate, analytical reasoning, logical. He's more logical. And intuition and logic don't necessarily always match. Let me get these a little bit more in frame. Just a little bit more in frame. Sorry. Who that? Flying through the sky, doing flips, dropping. There's a vine. I promise y'all, stuff just be coming to my mind. I'm kind of interested. But anyway, so yeah, with the King of Swords, intuition isn't enough. And so it's like he's also curious. So he could have been curious to see why he felt sort of pulled in this situation, but didn't necessarily go with it. I'll be right back, y'all. Give me a moment. I need to go grab something to drink. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. This also brings to mind, I did a reading recently on the eclipse. Before the eclipse, it would have been like the 20th. There was this side, that side, the one who leads are like leading and following and leading or something like that. And it's interesting because that also came up with this deck, and this deck was also up top, I believe. So this is very interesting. So in that reading, quick version, the Mother of Cups came out, and the Mother of Cups is the most intuitive card outside of the High Priestess. But the Mother of Cups doesn't necessarily have all of the know that the High Priestess has. And so in this space, this was the mind, this was the body, this was the spirit when I did that. So in this space, it was like mentally someone was beginning to know things that they may not necessarily know why they knew it. And it didn't completely make sense. And it didn't like they didn't know why they knew what they knew, but they were beginning to see all of the knowing validated. But there was also a lot of other stuff going on. And I remember it feeling like the past and the future were both converging on the present moment. So you have all of this insight about the path, about your future coming in, and then you have all of these things from the past surfacing and resurfacing. And it's like the past is coming to get cleared, resolved, sorted. The future is coming to motivate you to that path. But in the present moment, it's like it's kind of sort of information overload. So it's like the Queen of Cups didn't know what to do. And it was like, it felt like the future was coming in and the past was surfacing at the same time. And then the High Priestess came out in the spirit. So it was like spiritually, like when you get to the realm of the spirit, everything is quantum. There is no difference between then, now, and tomorrow. And so it's like spiritually, this person already knows, or spiritually, it's already happened, and this person is already connected to it due to the quantum nature of reality. But there was a lot of stuff happening to be sorted. And it just reminds me of this. But now with the King of Swords, with the Father of Swords here, it's like there's a lot less confusion, there's a lot more clarity, and you can really see like why this person, why this way, why this opportunity, right? It makes sense now. So that was probably a ride, if that resonated for anybody. And like I couldn't even like I thought I had a program to make the thumbnails like I wanted to make the thumbnails, but I didn't. So I use Paint and PowerPoint. PowerPoint actually kind of sort of low key works because you can get multiple objects and layer them. And I was feeling led to do like these circles within circles when I made those. And then I looked at the eclipse. I was like, oh, that makes sense. So they were like little eclipses. So yeah, that's that up there. So whatever it is, and a lot of people have been feeling Wheel of Fortune. A lot of people have been feeling abundance coming in. Some kind of shift, right? This is going from feeling it to like really knowing it's coming, and not only knowing it's coming, but kind of sort of knowing how to get there. But you have to move. So down here, I kind of want to do this first. Down here, we've got the Three of Pentacles. So down here, it's all about partnership, and it's about building it. This person up here is more in the space of not already having it, but this is a little more future focused. This is more present focused. So this could all be the self, right? This would be the mind up here, and this would be the heart down here, or the mental and the physical, mental, spiritual, and physical. Now I'm going to come over here. We've got the Emperor. So yeah, this we're actually doing it down here. And the Knight of Pentacles. I love this. Yeah, so this is the grand vision up here. Someone has the knowing. The knowing has been validated by life. Maybe by all the things sort of coming up. Again, it was like the past and the future are colliding in the now moment, and there are going to be some less than ideal parts of your past that you'll decide to sort of put in line, whatever that looks like for you. And then there are these aspects of the future that are coming in that really encourage and support you. But it's like it's almost like all happening now, so you can really see how one would affect the other. But now, on like in your day to day life, this is all about with the Emperor and the Three of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. This is all about action. This is all about action. And it's not necessarily drastic action. And you're not starting at the end of it, but you're also not starting at the beginning because this is the three. But you are in a phase where maybe it's like there was, oh, see, I wish. I'm not going to mess with the webcam and I'm not going to complain. I'll just keep going because honestly, the appearance of it is more trivial than the message. Um, so I'll just get over it. But you're not starting at the beginning, but it is requiring cooperation. And so maybe that's another thing with this King of Swords is maybe in the past, it's like with the High Priestess, you kind of sort of know that there's an element of cooperation that might need to happen. But due to what collaboration looked like in the past, or what the illusion of collaboration looked like in the past, it introduced hesitation or questions into the mix. And that could be one reason why the King of Swords was so skeptical in the past. But now you're kind of sort of reaching the point where you're realizing that the only way to get all 10 is through cooperation with someone else. And this is about actually showing up to do the real life building. Love it. So I'm going to set these at the bottom. And then we'll just do one of these. And then we'll go to the next round. Okay, I kind of enjoy this. High key. High key, not going to lie. I do kind of want to do a... No, let's do a past, present, future this time. Yeah, like let me make sure I'm not putting this card at the top of the deck. Yeah, I'm not. Okay. This one would be past, present, future. That was interesting. And I feel like that's more so within one person. I don't think that's necessarily two different people. Not necessarily. Like it could be a dynamic that involves multiple people, but all of that realization is kind of sort of happening within you. If you are of the mind to really look at what's happening. Like I've said before, there are some times where I dissect my reality just as much as I would a dream, right? If I see this, what does that mean? If this is happening, what does that mean? With this flow of events, like what is that saying behind the scenes? And I find it really helpful. And I'm probably going to have to go to the restroom because I'm drinking this green tea. And it's in a carton. I know. Don't judge me. I feel free, honestly. Eight of Swords in the present moment and the Four of Swords in the present moment. Now, if these are two different people, this is one person. I'm sorry. This is one person who is trapped and another person who's just kind of sort of chilling, waiting to move. The Four of Swords comes before the Five of Swords, and this person is like gotten over their Three of Swords, whatever, and they're ready to fight, but they're like, whatever this fight is, it's more effective when it's not done alone. And with this Eight of Swords up here, it's like all of the necessary change has already happened. We're just not acting like it. I want to do one of these now. So the Queen of Wands, yeah, she just like straight up chilling. With Temperance over here. And then let's just finish it out. The Son of Pentacles. Okay, so we got a Queen and a Knight. And the Devil. This is interesting. Oh, okay. This is low-key giving me Jesus in the desert vibes. And it's giving me Jesus in the desert vibes. For those of y'all, I'm gonna just go through the story. I don't necessarily remember the full story, but Jesus was basically on a fast for 40 days and 40 nights in a desert where there was no food and no water. And when he was later into it, his stomach was starting to growl a little bit because Jesus was, incarnate. So, he had to eat to, keep his body functioning. And so the devil came when Jesus was hungry, probably heard his stomach rumble a little bit. And the devil was like, well, if you hungry, like turn that rock into a loaf of bread and eat. And Jesus said, no, like I'm in here for a purpose. I'm in here for a reason, right? I'm not hungry for the sake of being hungry. Like if I wanted food, like you think I need you to come in and tell me to, go into the kitchen and get some food? Like, no. Can you see my laptop? Oh yeah, the colors. Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? I'm sorry. Let me let me get some focus and some attention. But it's giving me those vibes because this person again, they're waiting before the Five of Swords battle. And this queen is ready. She is ready. The Queen of Wands is the quintessential queen of shadow work, like of a healthy shadow relationship. So she's done her inner work. She's waiting to get the signal to move. And with this devil, it's temptation and it's impatience. She's being tested down up here. She's being tried, but not, I don't want to say not really, but she's ready. But it's almost like there's something in the stillness that she's learning. Because as a Wands court energy, sometimes the lesson that they need to learn is patience, right? It's not necessarily about going out and doing what you want when you want all the time. Sometimes you gotta wait. Sometimes you have to take a step back. Sometimes when you let the meal cook a little bit longer, the flavors really come out. And so she is ready and prepared and still and waiting on the signal, but at the same time, there are lessons in these moments that she is still learning. Whereas up here, this energy is so slow. This is the Queen of Wands. She's the Queen of Wands. So as a Wand suit again, she kind of sort of she knows what she wants and she likes to get it when she wants it. It's fire. Fire don't wait for you to get out the forest. Well, fire is like you should have been gone. You saw the smoke and you smelled the burning trees. Like why were you still here? I'm not stopping and waiting for you to get out the way. Sorry, not sorry. But now it's like, aren't you though? This devil is like, come on, burn me, burn me, burn me. And I'm sorry, but it's all about keeping this under control. And there's almost this intensifying effect because it's like it's as it's focusing, it's like it's going from just a general fire to a very intense like laser beam, like laser eye vision. It's very focused, and so it cuts through much quicker because it's all channeled in one direction. And if this were to go now, it wouldn't have that signal, it wouldn't have that direction. It would be easier, lost and misguided, and that would play right into this because there's something that this fire will cut right to the heart of. Fire is also an element of light, and this energy thrives in the shadows. And it's like there are many, many, many shadows, and the shadows are tougher than you think they'd be, right? These shadows have eaten a few lights, so they're not necessarily afraid of fire. And so that's why this queen needs to hone her fire and focus it into something that can really pierce through these shadows, because these shadows they're a little tougher. And she's the queen of shadows, right? So she's definitely like, oh, I can take them. Like, this is no big deal. But she doesn't know how tough this is. And so if she expended all of her fire, because it's like she's like surrounded by shadows. She thinks she has enough fire to take them all out, but in reality, she doesn't. And that's why, like, if she did, this Four of Swords wouldn't be here, right? It would be like a card of movement. But if she can hone her fire, still her mind, listen to that still voice inside, know which shadow among the group is the ringleader, hone her fire, focus it, and then just take it out without needing to expend all of the extra energy. And then it will not only, like, again, it teaches her something. That's what it would teach her how to do. Instead of going after everything and then getting exhausted, it's about learning focus and learning patience, learning to be still and learning to listen. Now, up here, Temperance, not going nowhere. Eight of Swords, not going nowhere. Son of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, slowest knight in the deck. This energy up here is so slow. Wait, I didn't even read this how I said I was going to read it, but it's fine because this is how I'm feeling it. But I mean, honestly, it can kind of sort of still work that way. Because up here in the past, we have the Queen of Wands. I would say this is like recent past. Someone's recently done all this work and come to this spot. In the present moment, they're waiting. This can't really be past, present, future because that's not how I have these structured. But anyway, in the future, there's this temptation to deviate from the path. And with these lovers tied together, it's almost like there is one path and many illusions. And that's why this moment right here is important. Because if you take a step before it's your time to step, now the universe has to reroute you, right? Let's say like you're going somewhere and you see a train. And so, okay, this is where you are. This is where the train is. This is the street right here, right? So you see the train going by up here. And you're like, oof, I'm gonna hit this right here because I don't want to wait for the train and then the GPS will reroute me. But if you go up here and if you wait in line, it's like as soon as you approach like right here, then the train is over and you can keep moving. And so now it's like you come here, and by the time you get here, if you would have stayed here, you would have seen that the train is gone. But now you're already rerouting where you could have had a straight shot. And that's what this energy is. That's why it's important to like approach it with a little bit more patience and to be still and calm and to wait for it. Now up here, this is if you've already done, like if you are on this is kind of sort of a two-person feeling right here. Kind of, sort of, but apply it however it applies. It could be you and you, right? Always. Energy is fluid like that. It doesn't necessarily always have to play out in the exact area of life that we think. That's why we all have different rising signs, right? You can get the same energy, but in a different area of your life. It ain't always in the seventh house. It's not always in the 10th house. It's not always relationships. It's not always career. Sometimes it's home. Sometimes it's your daily routine. Sometimes it's like your social circles and your how you get involved in your community and stuff like that. Or, sometimes it's behind closed doors, or sometimes it's in ways that you don't even understand or know. Anyway, back to this. So with the Knight of Pentacles, this is slow movement in the past, no movement in the present, and patience in the future. Both of these energies are misleading because I feel like the reason why you're moving so slow is because you don't think you're ready for whatever this is. And again, there are still lessons that you're learning. Yes. So it's not necessarily a timed thing, but there's work that you can do to get through the lessons quicker. And it's like this the energy up here is like this devil energy. I don't think it's going to be behind this temperance, but I'm interested to see what's behind this temperance. Oh, it's the star. I mean, the star is great, but it's not the devil. Because I was going to say, it's almost like this devil energy is also down here. The devil energy is on both sides, because whatever this is, it's kind of sort of important, or it's like a major pivotal point in your life. And so devil energy is very interested and invested in getting you to not do this. So that's why it's going to come in with all these shadows and tempt you with these false, enticing, whatever. And the devil knows your weaknesses, especially the Queen of Wands. Devil knows what you like. Devil knows your type, and he will send you the man with that body, with that package, with that, status that you like, and try to tempt you away from what it is that you actually want. Or he'll just know that you want to get some, so he'll just send you any Joe Schmo, and then you'll go for it. And there's no judgment at all. I'm always a proponent of letting your freak flag fly free and getting down with the good down if you want to. Just be safe and don't do anything that you'll regret later, like anything permanent, aka like pregnancy or disease. But again, if it happens, no judgment. But anyway, and then over here, it's like the question I have is like, who told you that this would take a long time? Who told you that this was a slow process? Who told you that you couldn't just go for it? Who told you that you couldn't just leave? Who says that this Son of Pentacles can't turn into a whole gosh darn chariot? Because the thing about the Son of Pentacles is he's the energy that is so diligent and well prepared. Oftentimes, the Knight of Pentacles can move a lot faster than it does, because it has the ability and the flexibility and adaptability to change and to grow as the situations change and grow, right? The Knight of Pentacles, being a force of nature, speaks kind of sort of to the element of cycles itself. And nature always finds a way to adapt and to change and to evolve. And a lot of times the gift of nature is time, right? And so, that could be another reason why he moves a little slow, because it takes time to do whatever, blah, 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 whatever. But I just feel like you can move a little bit faster. With this Temperance card, it's like you are your own limitation in the situation, because spiritually, the changes have already taken place. Mentally, you're aligning with them. And physically, you'll begin to make decisions in your 3D life that reflect that. Mentally, you could already be there, but not necessarily know how to engage with your world in a way that really puts you there. But with this Temperance, I'm getting more of an alchemy vibe than be patient and wait vibe. And it's like there's this roadblock that this Son of Pentacles is coming across on his journey. It's briar and brambles, but the Son of Pentacles has the gift to influence nature, right? Because again, it's Pentacles, Earth, nature, and it's like he makes the bramble and the briar bloom. I don't know if they're like flowering, but he makes them bloom, and when they turn into flowers, they just like they're easier to part and to move through when it's green instead of just like sticks, right? And that's like, if you apply what you learn as you move, you can go quicker. You don't necessarily have to always sit back and get run over by the train for let's say you have your foot on the track. You don't have to allow your foot to get run over for 5 minutes before you're like, hey, maybe I should before the next wheel comes, pull my foot back, right? Like you can see the train coming and be like, oh, let me move my foot. Or you can, you can not be paying attention and your foot gets rolled over once and then you're like, oh, let me pull my foot back before the next wheel comes from the next car, right? Or you can just like wait until the train is like completely obliterated your foot and then you'd be like, what did I learn from that? It's like, girl, you can speed it up. You can move a little quicker. But it requires an intentionality with this alchemy and the temperance card. And maybe sometimes the reason why temperance is patience is because people are more often than not a little slower on the uptake, because it's like there's the victim period where you just allow it to happen or you don't know why it's happening, and then there's the figuring it out period where you really dissect the lesson, and then there's the novice period where you begin to come out of that space, and then there's the adept period where you're actually keeping yourself from being in that space, and a lot of that takes time, but if done right you can alchemize it as it happens. You can transmute it as it's being thrown at you. It's like it's giving me like centrifugal centrifugal pump vibes, but it's like as it's coming in you can be transmuting it and then it's like it's also moving out. So it's this continuous process of it coming in and going out, and you're transmuting as it happens, so that you don't have to slow down as much. But if you wait for it, like it all comes in, you wait for the tank to fill up, then you spin it around, you swish it, you dump this in, you dump that in, you swish it, you test it, you look at the levels, you read the levels, it's a little too high in this, you add this, it's a little too low in that, you take this out, you swish it around more, and you do another test, and then, like 15 years later, you finally spit it out. It's like, or we can have this continual process. Again, I feel like you're capable of more than you're giving yourself credit for, because this looks like like this butterfly is ready to come out of this chrysalis at any moment. Literally any moment. It's afraid of these swords, but like you can literally just like fly over them. BT dubs, by the way. You know. And you have another bird here, so you could fly. Interesting. But again, they're both learning lessons in these moments. So that's kind of sort of a little bit of a past, present, future. The future is what we make it, though, and that's another thing that we're learning in this present moment, is how to tailor the future towards one that we actually want to live in. So next, I want to do a body, mind, spirit. I think that kind of sort of works with these. We'll see. We'll see how they come out. I feel like I shouldn't put an expectation on what's going to happen. I should just let it flow. But this is kind of fun. I may be doing this for a minute. There's that star again. That was an accident. Um, a star is kind of sort of cosmic alchemy. A star is this engine, this transmutation machine that converts the darkness around it into light. And as the star converts the darkness into light, if the star does it well enough, it can support other bodies nearby. And sometimes nearby is very, 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 very far, depending on how bright and how warm you are. So it's almost like you're limited by what you do within yourself. That's like you are your only limitation. It's not time, it's not necessarily patience. It's like it is time and patience, but it's because it's all working at your pace. So if you speed up, it can speed up, right? Divine timing is less about waiting until that fated day and more about when you get to this point, then this can happen. So if you wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, and it takes you multiple years to get to the point to trigger the next phase, then that's less on divine timing and more on you being a little slow. So if you do it all up front, you get to move quicker. It's not that. I already got to go to the bathroom, This is fun. This is really fun. This is interesting. So let's start with the physical again. Ooh, Five of Swords and the Seven of Swords. Oof, girl. It's like one person is finally cutting something off and this other person is ready to sail away. Honestly, what this feels like is, mm, oh, that green tea was good. It's Arnold Palmer. It's Arizona. Usually I get the bags, but I was in the store and I didn't feel like brewing it. It was already brewed, so I got it. Don't judge me, or feel free to judge me. Honestly, I don't really too much care. This immediately to me brings up questions, fears of control. Because it's like on this side, you have the Five of Swords, maybe someone who always got their way, who has a very, very, very sharp tongue. But up here, especially in this card, this sailor, this marine, I believe, has taken all of the swords from the ship in the back. So he's effectively reduced their ability to hurt him to zero. Now the danger comes like if they in the water come across danger, they don't have any of the swords to defend themselves. And I think that's very interesting because it's like their defense is attacking somebody else. And then we have this person right here in the Five of Swords. Like, are all five of these swords really necessary for this one little worm? Like, absolutely not. These people in the boat are like the best defense is a good offense. And so they're just offensive. Just offensive. Extremely offensive. But it establishes control. And so maybe this is the past and this is the this is the present and this is the past. Like past. This could either be two people, like you and somebody who ain't necessarily for you, you and the past and you in the present, you in the past, you in the future, and then the present is kind of sort of this moment in between where you're migrating from one to the other. Take it as it fits. But yeah, that's why I'm seeing like somebody is having a meltdown because this person has taken their ability to affect them, and now this person is like doesn't know what to do. Now, this could be you being a little bit manipulative in the past, or you being manipulated in the past. And this could be you doing this. It's like you no longer taking it, or you no longer doing it. But anyway, like there's this moment of panic here. Because if this is two people, I'm kind of sort of feeling it like somebody in a karmic. Because again, like this person would use excessive force to manipulate you, belittle you, keep you dependent and reliant on them because they made you feel that small. But now that you're feeling taller, it's like they can't as easily manipulate you, and so it's causing like panic in them. But this is the physical. This is like your real life reality. This isn't necessarily mental. It could be mental. I mean, they're both swords, so it is mental, but it's mental enough to the point where it like physically affects you, right? Like kind of sort of PTSD vibes, low key, um, because that's how much it affected you. Let's move to the spirit and hope for some kind of resolution. The hermit. Oof. Well, immediately. Well, okay. So this is the hermit. So somebody could be recognizing the error of their ways, recognizing the part that they played because they went inside, and this could be something that they picked up that now they do it to other people. This could have been some darkness that was inherited either the blood, genetics, or through trauma. But now they're starting to like realize and recognize that they're doing it and they're going to stop. Again, if this is the past and this is the present, that would make sense, especially if you were the worm in this case where you let other people do this to you and you're coming into the space where you are like, enough is enough. I love myself enough for my worth and value to not be based on what other people say and think about me and how other people treat me. You just don't see it, right? Just because you don't know that a Bugatti is an expensive car doesn't make the car any less expensive. I may think Bugatti is like some kind of French bread or something. I don't know. Like Bugatti, what's that? I didn't even know what a Bugatti was until like senior year of high school because for some reason in my AP biology class, people were like, let's have car names. And one person picked Bugatti. I'm not a car person, so I don't too much care. But anyway, but first came to mind is like this person ain't gonna change. But then I think I looked at it and it's like, okay, there's a potentiality there. And then we moved to the sun. So this could also be you trying to find shelter in bad spaces. Because again, if we're going back to that transmutation process, to the learning curve, if you're not learning that, if you're not transmuting that, you may be with that temperance, you may be feeling like, oh my gosh, why is this taking so long? But it's because you're not seeing and doing what you need to see and do. And so you're actually attracting more of this situation until you learn the lesson. And so it's like you're trying to find shelter in these spaces, but you see the tortoise is already like, the tortoise is in there. So you're entering these spaces where you're already reserved. You're already on the defensive. You're already like prepared for things to go to the left or for things to go south. And it's like if you were fully, it's like PTSD is something that's very, very real. And when things like that happen to people, they do their best to cope with it and to mitigate the effects. And so you may become the type of person who mutes themselves or who falls in line in order to appease whatever this energy would have been. But again, it's like until you kind of learn to come out of that, you're going to keep repeating it. But with the sun card, I feel like this is you no longer needing those lessons because the hermit went inside to find the light. And this is also interesting because it's almost like no matter how deep inside this hermit goes, this tortoise will never find the light because the light is on top of its shell. And so maybe again, there's that energy of like not necessarily looking at things the right way or not looking in the right places or not realizing the source of why this keeps happening. But as you come into this moment, and I love the red skies and the sun and the seven of swords, the skies are both red. They say red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. This card is red skies at morning, specifically because that's what the book said, right? But it could also be red skies at night. And this becomes red skies at night when you do the work to, again, take yourself out of these situations. So, this, again, like this could have been past and future, and you're in this present moment, sort of in between. But I kind of love this. This is really beautiful, and it got heavier than I wanted it to. But again, this is also the spirit over here. So your spirit has grown. Spiritually, you've gotten stronger. Spiritually, you don't need. It's like as your consciousness grows and evolves and changes, your spiritual needs grow and evolve and change. And when you exit certain situations, you don't spiritually need them to come and teach you anything anymore. And so now, before I pull the mental, but now it feels like you're learning something new. Now you're learning to open up. You're learning to be vulnerable. You're learning to be happy. And you're learning that you don't have to be so guarded all the time. If you are in, if you've already taken your power back and you are no longer in situations or attracting situations that put you in this state of mind, then it's about you learning to drop your guard and it's about you learning to be happy. It's about you learning that whatever this is for you is over. Because when you really take your power back, you don't allow yourself to be in these situations, even if you do attract them. So mentally, the Father of Swords. Oof. So yeah. Okay. So with the Father of Swords, though, this could be a little bit more mental abuse than physical abuse, and I don't abuse. Okay, we went all the way there. Maybe not necessarily abuse. It could be, but this is more so the words and the thoughts that other people drilled into you, and so it really affected your self worth. And your self worth dropped low enough for you to keep going after these, and then it kind of sort of dips lower and lower and lower. But at a certain point, it's gonna dip low enough where you have an opportunity to rescue yourself, to save yourself. I don't, this popped into my mind. I don't think I was pulling cards. Maybe I was watching a reading. I don't know. I don't think anybody said it. But what popped into my mind is like someone is sending an SOS to spirit and spirit is replying SYS. Like save yourself. And it's not funny. Um, but that's kind of sort of, in some ways, it's kind of sort of the space that we're in now, but it's also kind of sort of a space that we've always been in. Like the cheetah girls, we got to rescue ourselves sometimes because if someone else comes and they save you, and see, that could be another thing too. It's like there could have been someone who would come in under the guise of being different than other people, and it starts really beautiful, but then there's some kind of like entitlement complex, or they begin to like think that you're property, and then they start saying stuff like, "Without me, you still would have been XYZ, right? It's because of me that now you're ABC." And so you up in ABC and they trying to drag you all the way back down to the bottom of the alphabet again when you just escaped from the numbers, which are kind of sort of below the alphabet. Not below the alphabet, but you go through the alphabet first and then the numbers. And this King of Swords, it's kind of sort of in reverse because this isn't you seeing things for yourself. Or in the past, it wasn't you seeing things for yourself. It was you seeing things the way that other people wanted you to see them so that you would continue to let them just kind of sort of beat up on you. But in the present, give me something good. The Ace of Wands? And the present is the Ace of Wands. Oof, I love this fire. I love this fire. And what this Ace of Wands is telling me is that without a court here with just like the straight up ace, it could have been inspired by somebody. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is you coming into your own. And this is you saying, you know what? No. And we got the sun here. And then we got the Ace of Wands here. Like these are lit. Both of these are lit. And also in this Ace of Wands, she depicts it's a certain kind of lizard where they're all females and they reproduce by parthenogenesis. So basically, their eggs fertilize themselves. They don't need any external input from a man, from a masculine energy, from anybody else. This is something that they can do within themselves by themselves. And it may take you to reach this point again. And usually, sometimes the Seven of Swords energy can be a little bit, because when it comes to partnership, it includes a certain level of vulnerability. So sometimes this could be you, like you're not vulnerable enough to really connect to somebody else. But while that may be true, what this was about in this moment is getting you to this and getting you to this and taking you out of this. So if there was another person in this situation that kind of sort of helped you reach this point and you cut that person out, because at first it's kind of sort of weird, but when you take, it's like if you rescue a stray that's had, or an animal that's had a particularly rough time, it might take them a while to warm up to you, and so they may be like super defensive for a while. And so you may have cut someone out because it's like in this new environment you haven't quite registered it yet. but there were things that you needed to go through within yourself to come to this moment. And now that you're coming more into this, now you can drop your guard and you can really enter something more fulfilling, right? Because it's almost like now you can be a more active player than you were when you were still facing this darkness, but trying to find your own light. And I love that this kind of sort of came out after Temperance, because it's like this energy is you beginning to learn how to transmute and alchemize that darkness into the light. But this is after you've mastered it, or after you've gained some level of adepthood at the very least. Maybe not yet mastery, but after you've become at least adept. And then you're ready to move forward. Again, that's when we go from red sky at morning to red sky at night, and it's more smooth sailing moving forward. So, love that. It was kind of heavy, but life is heavy sometimes. I kind of want to just like go forever with these. This is so interesting. I'm glad I did this. Like 9 times out of 10, whenever I'm like, oh, I should go and do this, I enjoy it. So I may not necessarily be the most consistent, but that's fine. I mean, like when I'm always doing something new, that's kind of sort of where I'm thriving. So, maybe that could also be my Gemini South Node. So it is sometimes about staying a little bit and honing it and fleshing it out with my Sagittarius North Node. I already got to go to the restroom. I'm actually going to do that really quick. So I will be back in a moment. I don't have any more cards. So look at this box and reflect on what this means to you. And I'll be right back. That is the Sun card. And we just got the Sun card. So, hey, thanks, Spirit, for the break. Okay. We interrupt this meditative moment to resume the program. You know, when you have more restrooms in the house than you have people, and it's like it can either be a stereotypical ladies' room or a stereotypical men's room where there's either a line or no line at all. This is one of those line moments. And I'm glad I went to the restroom or tried to go to the restroom before I was bursting at the seams. And I'm just going to hold it. I'll do my best. Okay, wait. Okay, so this time is pop up. This time is random. I haven't started. Wait, I haven't started over here yet. I think so. We're gonna start here. Justice. Oh, this is interesting. And the Empress. We're gonna see if this is one person, two people, or what. Now I'm gonna come over here, and then we're gonna speculate what the middle card could be. The Page of Wands and the Ace of Wands. This might be two people, potentially. Or this could be you and your higher self, aka you in spirit. Where this one would be you, this would be spirit, or this could all be spirit. We'll see. Because it's like down here, justice is about us. Just looking at this, it's like this is about us learning to accept duality for what it is, the good and the bad. And then when we do that, we get this sword, which is this new ability. And so there's sort of like an Ace of Swords energy here between these two, and then an Ace of Wands energy here. And this is, it's not trial by fire, but this is us learning how to be responsible before we actually get it. It's like, before we let you get a dog, we're going to give you this little toy dog, like one of those dogs back in the day that used to like flip and stuff. robot dogs or whatever they were. I can't remember. I should because I saw the commercials all the time. But or it's like, we're gonna buy you this like pet simulator. You're gonna get a Nintendo dog before you get a real dog, and we're gonna see if you can, feed and walk the dog every day, even when it's virtual. This is us proving ourselves responsible before we actually get the power. And so with this Ace of Wands, it's almost like I'm gonna interject a little bit here to give this a little bit of a context to how I'm kind of sort of getting it. Um, it's important that we learn this lesson before we get the wand, because there are some things that need to be observed or balanced. And again, that's the lesson of duality and polarity here that we're learning. Things can't always be good, and things can't always be bad. And there is good in the bad, and there is bad in the good. The bad and the good could be like, okay, well, if you win this money, that means someone else isn't going to win it. And how much do you need it compared to how much someone else could need it? And are there other avenues and ways and means for you to achieve whatever you want to achieve that don't require this? Whereas with this person, it's kind of sort of their saving grace. This is balancing the self and it's balancing the others, and it's understanding again that in the yin and the yang, there is light and there is dark, and you can't always get what you want how you want it, because it comes at some sort of a price. And so this is, in one sense, it's almost like, before you get this increased manifestation power, it's like we need to make sure your priorities are straight. So you're not just manifesting like, Jeep after Jeep after Jeep. I don't know what's up with me and Jeeps lately. So you're not just manifesting Jeeps and mansions, so that you're actually using your gift to do something for some people who aren't you or connected to you directly. Right. I'm gonna get myself a Jeep. I'm gonna get my daughter a Jeep, my son a Jeep, my son friend a Jeep. This random dude that my daughter just kind of sort of chatted with one day because they have similar interests, and he wasn't a creep. He get a Jeep. My mama a Jeep, my daddy a Jeep, my granddaddy a Jeep, my grandmama a Jeep, my great 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 granddaddy a Jeep, who ain't even here no more, but we'll bury the Jeep next to him. Or we'll dig him up, put him in the Jeep, and then bury both of them. Like really? It's about all of that before you get this. And that's what this is up here. Like this is the actual manifestation ability. And with the page of wands, this is you having it and beginning to use it. And it's the page because there's something that you're going to do with this this is interesting. Because I want to say spirit doesn't know what you're going to do with it. But spirit knows everything. But spirit doesn't know this, because this spirit is you. It's one of your higher selves, or maybe even your highest self. Because even on a spiritual level, there is still growth. Because none of us, like we're all connected to source consciousness, but none of us necessarily, at least to my knowledge and awareness at this point in my life, is the soul and body of complete, whole, unified soul consciousness, all in one vessel, right? And so even your higher selves have more to grow and they have more to learn. And this energy down here, it's like you don't know what you're going to do with it, because the environment this time is different. It's almost like this could be an ability that it either would have been out of reach for several lifetimes, or like you get it for a lifetime and then you lose it for several, and then you grow some more and then you get it and you lose it and you get it and you lose it. And maybe you lose it because you misuse it, or maybe you lose it because the time isn't always right, because the environment isn't always right. But there's something about the way things line up this time that will get you to use your gifts and abilities in a way that you haven't used them before. This is an actual evolution of your gifts and abilities, and not just a straight up like you receiving it, right? Your gift is evolving and changing because the way you're going to use it and interact with it this time is different than you've ever done it before. But that's why it's so important for you to know that you'll actually do what you need to do with it. Or it's important for you to understand the things that you need to understand before you get it. Because it almost feels like somebody on a higher spiritual level was like, okay, we need you to go down there in this lifetime and we need you to do this. And your spirit was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I have these gifts and I have those gifts. And like, I don't do this. This isn't what I do. This isn't in my area. Like, if you need somebody to spiritually do this, why don't you send like, one of these other five people? And it's like, well, because these other five people are in like five different areas of the world right now. And we kind of sort of need, we're seeding multiple people to do this. We kind of sort of need multiple people to do this, like all over. And, congratulations, this is your promotion if you do it right. And so it's like you have everything at your disposal, but there's something about the way you've gone through life this time. There's something about the people who have come into your life this time, and there's something that you're doing different. And again, it's kind of sort of related to the time and where the consciousness is. That you're just innately going to know how to apply this in a way that gets the result desired. So spiritually, someone else knows that you're capable, but you and your own spiritual higher self have to figure it out. And I know that isn't necessarily the common sort of story when it comes to like gifts and abilities and things like that. But our spirits and souls grow just like, our consciousness does when we're down here. This is weird. I'm almost seeing this cat lighten up a little bit, especially like down here. But this one isn't getting any darker to me. But this one is it's lightening. It's getting lighter, not like lightning, but I guess it could be lightning. So if I had to guess what's in the middle here, I'd say this would probably be a 9 or a 10. Maybe the 9 of Wands. This would probably be the Wand suit. This down here would probably be either an Earth suit or a Sword suit. So let's go up here first. I'm probably wrong. It's the 3 of Wands. Okay. Actually, that makes sense more than the 9. I had a feeling it would be a Wand suit because with the Wand suit, it's all about tenacity, and it's all about doing something but something, right? And so with the 9 of Wands, I was kind of sort of feeling more so the area of like the spiritual and again that tenacity, because the 9 is a little bit more tenacious than the 3. But I guess it goes back to you doing something new with what you have at your disposal. That's kind of sort of the difference between the 2 and the 3. Sometimes the 2 is like the beginning of the journey, and the 3 is after you've started and you're waiting for a ship or a vessel to carry you to your next destination, right? And down here, the 7 of Pentacles. Okay. And I love this too. I was getting a feeling it's either swords because you're learning something and you're understanding it again with this justice, or it's Pentacles because this is actually like you on earth physically learning how this interacts with your reality. And with the 7, this is perfect for this energy, just like this was perfect for this energy. Because this is with the 3 of Wands again, it's like this is the manifesting of the new thing. And if it's something that you don't really know how to do, I guess it wouldn't really be the 9. And like, I guess spiritually, it wouldn't be a struggle. Spiritually, it's just like interesting. How do I do this? But down here, this is kind of sort of where the struggle is. But this struggle isn't a struggle. It's more so a dedicated effort. And I'm going to go to the restroom really quick, so I'll be right back. This time you can look at, I'm going to grab the SKT and pull you a card to reflect on. We'll fill the space and then we'll come back and you let me know what you thought of. I just pulled, oh, wow. Ace of Pentacles, Bread of Life. There you go. BRB. Okay, so now that you've had time to think, let's compare. So, one moment. Oh, this is done charging. Great. So, what I was getting with this is about concentrated effort. Again, this is about us creating the thing, right? Well, I guess it's a twofold. It's about creating it, and it's also about. I am not used to that noise. It's about creating, and it's also about learning. And so I'm seeing it as in the Eight of Pentacles in this deck, the Eight of Orbs, the Journeyman. I would look for it, but it's not quite that serious. It talks about, and here's the Seven of Pentacles. With this ace, it would make the eight. So I am going to actually look for it. So let's see. Nine of Swords at the bottom. Well, I should be at the top of the deck. Because I feel like I saw it recently, but I'm not sure. Here it is, right here. That wasn't too long. Nice. And it's with the Archangel of Healing. So in this deck, or in this card, the person is, you see the orb that they're holding under around the throat area? That's the one that they're creating. So it's almost like they're pulling their energy in this single point, making and pulling it and making it dense enough for it to actually manifest. And that came out recently somewhere. Because I remember being like, this is about us learning how to make our own thoughts and vibrations dense enough for them to manifest, which is an increase in the manifestation ability. Because again, we're not necessarily completely 100% relying on the universe and the world to bring us all of the material. We're kind of sort of in some way taking a little bit more of proactive approach is the word that came to my mind, but it's not necessarily proactive. It's just an increase in the ability, right? We're becoming a little bit more getting a little bit more permission. But again, that's why this is so important, because this is us learning in some ways the natural order of things. And again, this goes back to maybe a week or so ago when I was rolling the dice and the Four of Zones came out, but I was looking at it like it was the Sage of Zones when I was like, because with the four, that anchors in it and it grounds something. And with it being the zones, it's the mental space of it before we get the physical plot of land. But we need to learn how everything works before we build from the ground up. And that's kind of sort of what this energy is, so that we don't violate anything, so that we're not too selfish or whatever. And this is very, very like woo 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 woo. But that's why I love this channel. Because I went live on my legacy channel last night because I was feeling like, because I'm not necessarily trying to build this, but again, if ever I feel led to open a gate or a portal or a doorway, I open it. And so that's what I did. But over there, it's like, I don't know, the energies are different over there. And I don't like it like I like it over here. And maybe it's because like I got a lot less people over here. And that's something that I'm gonna get over as I'm learning to come into my voice. And it's actually quite rewarding. And surprising. And anyway, I'm not gonna get full into it because that's not what this is about. But so this is gradual. Anyway, I don't think I finished talking about that Ace of Pentacles. But that Ace of Orbs was, again, it was that eight. It was bringing it all together and it was making it dense enough for it to come into this world. And you could see that it wasn't as completely shaded in as the orbs. I'll just bring it out again. There was still a little bit of space in here. So we're still learning. And you can say, oh, well, that's the light, blah, 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 blah. And I guess there's light on this one, but I don't know. It feels different. Because at the bottom of the eight, it feels like it's more completely shaded in than that ace. And it kind of sort of isn't. It's just like a little bigger, so it has a bigger bright spot, but it kind of sort of at the same time is. So that's that. And then the moon and the eight of wands was at the top of the deck again. So yeah, this is spiritual evolution. For some people, maybe they just straight up get the gifts of the spirit. But if this is resonating with you and if this is like your path, your gift is evolving because your spirit is evolving. And it's almost like this may be your spirit's, while you've had a physical incarnation, your soul. This may be your soul's first time really coming into this level of manifestation. And that's another reason why it's a spiritual evolution. Don't misuse this, whatever this is. And again, it could be going back to that luminous void that I've been feeling. That was interesting. Let's get another one. And I didn't even have to use the dice. Oh, I love it. I love it. Give me something deep. I want it now. Let's see. Let's get another rando. Another rando. I should start with the spirit pile more often. Or the majors more often. Man. Yeah, I'm going to do that again. I want to feature more decks that I don't use all the time. Just because I guess I kind of sort of feel bad for not using them, but at the same time, maybe I should just use what I'm connected to. I wasn't going to use these two. Like I said, I was going to use the Witch's Tarot, but that didn't end up happening. So I used these two because they're of comparable size. So let's start down here, right here. The moon. Yes. I was like, I want something deep. The whole moon come out. And the Fool. I like this. This is fresh energy. The water is nice. Dive in. Oh, but the world at the bottom of the deck. Okay. Well, what's at the bottom of this one? The Hierophant. The Messenger. The Moon and the Messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. And you remember, have you ever seen where somebody was like trying to shoot the moon or trying to like lasso the moon and pull it down? Don't shoot the messenger. People firing rockets at the moon. Oh my gosh. Anyway, okay. So let's get into this. Is this more slanted than it was before? That's fine. I'm really like vibing with this today. I can't be live forever, but can't I? So with the Fool and the Moon, again, I don't quite know if this is like how I'm feeling this yet. But the Fool energy and the Moon energy are very similar. I was gonna say it's almost like the Moon is the shadow of the Fool. but not quite. I would say the moon is the fool's anxiety. The moon is the devil on the fool's shoulder that comes and says, "What about this? What about that? Like, what if you can't fly yet? Like, you'll fall, you'll drown, you'll die. Like, what about, like, are you ready? Like, what if you take, like, instead of jumping off the cliff, what if you walk around, right?" And it's, again, it's the fool's anxiety because it's the thing about the fool is it jumps regardless. Like, the fool knows it's going into the unknown, and the moon is the unknown. And in some ways, it's also the unknowable. And at the same time, it's like once something comes to the light, it's no longer in the realm of the moon. So, in that sense, the realm of the moon is always unknowable because as soon as you know it, it's no longer moon energy. Now it's like star energy or sun energy, depending on how much you know, right? And so there are some things that the fool will never know, but it can feel, right? Because the moon pushes and pulls the tides. It has an effect on the water. But it's interesting because we don't see it move it. It's like the wind, where we see something move as a result of it, but we don't physically see it pushing it like we would see it if, somebody came up and pushed a trash can. Because then we see the person pushing the trash can, right? Invisible people. What are invisible people? The hands of spirit. There's also, I haven't gotten into any of this, but kind of sort of coming off of the last thing, this almost speaks of our ability to influence things without physically being there. So there's an element of distance here. And I guess the question is, does distance weaken the impact? Does distance strengthen it? Does distance affect it at all? They say distance makes the heart grow fonder, but distance also creates longing that invites opportunity for disloyalty or whatever else. Depending on what your understanding and your yeah, depending on what your understanding is, it may not necessarily be disloyalty. Some people have open relationships where they're at a distance. Some people have open relationships when they're not at a distance. People make it work how it works for them. But this is someone's ability to do something over a distance. And again, with this full card, it may be new. Maybe somebody will become like a long distance healer or Reiki practitioner or whatever. I'm going to Reiki you over the phone or over the internet. Let me know if you feel it. Can you feel it now, Mr. Krabs? Mr. Krabs just said I'd like to. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. Oh, get out of here. Um but yeah, let's see what this is about. Okay. Oh, Four of Cups and the Two of Pentacles. And my eye immediately goes to this large glass of milk after talking about how the moon can move tides. And then we have this Two of Pentacles up here. So if we step away from the Reiki and stuff like that, and if we go back to the initial is postulation a word? The initial hypothesis, I'll just say. That this is like the anxiety of the fool. then this, I guess, would be the light and this would be the shadow, even though this was the shadow and this was the light. I don't know. This is one side of you, this is the other side of you. Sometimes the light isn't always right, and sometimes the shadow ain't always the shadow. And I say sometimes the light isn't always right because sometimes a light without healthy boundaries will get you to give to situations that you shouldn't give to. Um, right. And it's not like sometimes doing the right thing isn't the right thing. Like we shouldn't always be enablers, even though somebody be like, "Oh, but I'm just so caring and kind and compassionate." It's like, yeah, but you're enabling. So if you use your shadow to introduce a little bit of healthy boundary, again, you ain't got to go hardcore, but it's about transmutation, learning how to use and apply in appropriate measure when necessary, right? So this is a decision that the Fool is kind of sort of going back and forth in between. And for the Fool to refuse to make this decision is to keep this butterfly's wings bound, and so it keeps this change from happening. And it's like the butterfly's wings are more developed than this little bird's, and so it's like he isn't really going to be able to fly until he makes a decision. And it's more than just making a decision, because this is Pinnacles, these are Pinnacles, you got to do something physical. Something needs to actually happen, right? Maybe if this was the Two of Swords, it's like, oh, once you decide, then that's enough. Like, no, Pinnacles are like, you got to do something physically tangible and or observable, because until you do, nothing's happening, right? You can't, make something out of your imagination and then expect to pour something into it, right? Like you need an actual physical glass if you want it to hold anything. Someone is a vessel for a great change, or someone, it's almost like once you take the first step, you're going to give someone else the courage, or many other people to take the courage to take their next step. Or there's something about you, what you physically do, that will not only inspire this change within you, but then will also get the collective to move, right? Because um, my whole thing about oneness, I'm gonna go on my little rant. I understand it in I understand it, but I don't always subscribe to it. I look at oneness like if I take a mug and if I drop it and it shatters into 100 pieces, there are 100 pieces of this mug that when, put together make the mug, but one shard of the mug is not the same as another shard of the mug, right? We're not fractals of each other, we're fragments of that divine source unity consciousness. If we were fractals, then it's like, yeah, we're all the same, just in different proportions. It's like, no, we're fragments. We're different. We have differences, and it's okay. It's fine. Right? If you trace our lineage all the way back, yeah, we have this common ancestor, but that was what, like a million years ago, right? You're in the sea now. I'm on land now. I got legs. You still got fins, or whatever. You got flippers. I got slippers. Um, why am I talking about that? Yeah, because okay, so because with the subtle realm, it's like, once you do it in yourself subtly, it reflects that change in other places. And yeah, that's where I was going. I think there are some times when we can really lead the collective rather than necessarily being a part of it. It's like if you, oh, what is it? What is it? It's not like Red Rover. It's like an amoeba with the pseudopod, how it'll extend itself in one direction and then the rest of it will like catch up, but it's not always in the same direction, right? So it's like if everyone links their hands together and if no one is moving, but then you begin to move, everyone else will move in your direction. And then you take us as far as you need to take us, and then you stop, and then someone else begins to move and they move us in the other direction. And so sometimes we lead the collective, sometimes we're a part of it. This is about you leading the collective. This is about you introducing a thought, a frequency, a vibration. What's at the bottom? The Four of Cups. Oof. Four of Cups, Four of Cups. So let's do that. And let's bring this up here now. Someone else is going to take the reins now. And it is the Five of Wands. Oof. I don't know if I like that. It's fine. Well, okay, yeah. So we're talking about that. We're talking about leading the collective. And with this Five of Wands, this is, even if your point isn't seen, and going back again to what just came out when it came to manifesting that, when it comes to adding weight to your own thoughts, ideas, and stuff like that, when you give it enough weight, then other people can begin to see it, feel it, and to pick up on it. Again, like if you take the first step while all your hands are linked, and if you keep moving, everyone else will follow in that direction because they're not going to fall down. But you kind of sort of got to be strong enough to keep pulling it, even if you encounter resistance. And this ain't about forcing nobody to do nothing because we ain't about that life. But it's the steadfastness that is required. And again, that could also be related to the thing that you're going to do in this lifetime that you haven't necessarily done in others. Because let's say in the past, you'd allow yourself to not be steamrolled, but if you didn't get like a consensus with somebody else, you just drop it and you just go along with what everyone else is doing. But again, maybe it wasn't yet the time for what it's the time for now. Something about now is different. But yeah, this is the resistance that you may encounter. And it isn't about fighting on the 3D level, right? Because we've just shifted the story up here, right? This is kind of sort of you with the Fool, and this is kind of sort of spirit. This is the unseeable. This is the shadow of things. This is the dynamic, the invisible dynamic that pulls the invisible forces. So now we're shifting up here into the invisible forces. And so when it comes to the mental, it starts with an A. It's not acrobatic or aerobic. Astral. I was going to say it's not astral, but it is astral. When it comes to the astral space, this is you giving it's you giving your own frequency enough weight to win out over denser, lower frequencies, even if those denser frequencies are more, even if they're louder, right? And so now I guess I'll flip this because we're flipping stuff now. Now we come over here to the Page of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles. And this is interesting because I just pulled the Ace of Pentacles. So again, I tell y'all, I go off on tangents sometimes, but then the cards will like be like, "Oh no, yeah, no, like you were right, like you were on point, like it's all connected, it's all related." That's the thing about that justice too. You learn it's all connected, it's all related. There ain't no mistakes. I did a reading for one of my friends. She actually called me today, but I was having a lazy day earlier, so I was still in bed at like 1 or 2 or whatever. I got out of bed at like 3 or 4. But it felt good because I haven't been sleeping too much. It's like there's more energy in my body than my body knows to deal with. And I'm not necessarily trying to do nothing extraneous at, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning. I just want to go to bed. Anyway, she was like, "You did this reading for me in like New Year's," and like, "Oh my gosh, you were so on point. Like, I don't even think you know." I was like, "No, girl, I know. I know. Yeah, I know. Sometimes it takes a while to catch up." But actually, for her, they happened fairly quickly because we started our journey together. Literally, not talking to each other around the same time in our lives, in the same month, within the span of the same like few weeks. We started our journeys at the same time. We both had our dark nights at around the same time, and we reconnected later in that year and found out that we started going about it at the same time. And so when January 2019 rolled around, we were together on we're going to do everything we need to do. Towers can happen, we take them as lessons and we keep on moving. We don't shy away from it. We process it, we learn from it, we move on to the next challenge. And so talking to her has been amazing. But there were like certain things I wouldn't say to her, because she's coming into the space where she can get a lot more woo woo now. She wasn't necessarily as woo woo in the past, but she's really, really, really good at manifesting opportunity and at actually following through. She also has a lot of Aries in her chart. So, not to discredit her, but I would always be like, well, she has Aries, so that's why she can do everything that she does. And I have Pisces in my chart. So I do the mental work and I leave the physical work to someone else. And it's like, no, no, you can do physical work too, little fish. You got two fish for a reason. It's like I'm Aquaman, and my two little Pisces fish are the chariot, like the horses in the chariot pulling me forward. Pisces should be the real chariot. Let me stop. I mean, we got two fish. Hello? It's just like Aquaman. We's the Aquaman. Anyway, oh, Aquaman. Here he is. Aquaman, Page of Cups. let me let me stop. This is Aqua Baby. Aqua toddler. We're not babies. We can walk. We're aqua toddlers. Or aqua teen. We're aqua teens. Oh my gosh, not aqua teen. Aqua teen hunger force. Why did I just hear number one in the hood? G. As soon as I said we're aqua teens, that came into my mind. It was like, oh my gosh, aqua teen hunger force. Okay, so anyway, that was. I'm not gonna say that that's relevant to anything. But we'll see. Because we shifted up here now. Okay, so again, this is the flow, or kind of sort of this. Um, and so again, as we're giving our own, and that's kind of sort of the thing about anchoring light, right? We're giving the light enough fuel to win out over the darkness on that subconscious realm in the unseen realms. For then people, it's like people pick up on it with this Page of Cups. That's what I'm getting with this Page of Cups. It's like with the Five of Wands, you are giving your frequency weight. You are astrally becoming a giant that has some kind of authority on that plane. And again, that's why that justice was important, and that's why that justice is necessary, because this isn't something to be misused. But in some ways, like, that's kind of sort of sometimes what it means to bring light into a situation where there was none. And so as you shine this light in this dark space, you become this force that moves things without being seen. And this Page of Cups is other people picking up on it. So now you're beginning to influence the collective. Now the collective is starting to feel, even if they haven't been in direct communication with you, now the collective is starting to feel whatever you've put out light. I mean, you don't have to be. There are people who manipulate people in all kinds of ways, but we're not manipulators over here. This is the collective picking. And as the collective awakens to this, because see, the thing about the collective is they kind of sort of gravitate to the predominant frequency. And that's why, mass consciousness, mass awakening, as that light becomes the predominant frequency, it shifts more and more and more of the collective. A lot of the collective just fall to the predominant frequency, and that's why sometimes people are easy to control. For people in the space to put out those programs of control, once that becomes the dominant frequency, other people just fall into it because, like, oh, well, everyone else is doing it, so I'm going to do it. Or, oh, societally, there's nothing wrong with it. So that's what, I'm going to do, and not feel any kind of responsibility or morality or whatever ethical concern because everyone else is doing it. It's like, okay, well, if everyone else is out committing crimes, that doesn't make it any less legal just because it's not being prosecuted, right? But anyway, you're becoming the predominant, or you're helping the light become the predominant frequency here. And so now the collective is shifting towards it. And as the collective shifts towards it, they go through their awakening, come into a little bit more of their consciousness, go through their dark nights, they shift towards the light, and it increases the light, even more. And that's what shifts the frequency of the world with this Ace of Pentacles. But it all starts with this fool here that may think because of the moon that, like, I'm only just one little bird, what can I do? And I'm a mighty eagle, so can't relate. Let's just see what's at the top for funsies. Ace of Swords, yep, and the Mother of Wands. Interesting, because the Queen of Wands came out up here before. And so if you resonate to the Queen of Wands that was up here, that was in this moment of silence and stillness, working on things in your silence before whatever this joint thing is comes back together, this may be part of what you're working on right now before things really pop off. Potentially. But yeah, that's kind of sort of beautiful. I kind of sort of love that. But yeah, and that's why, I don't know. I'm kind of sort of, I got a lot of Taurus in my chart, so I'm stubborn enough to hold fast to what I believe and not necessarily be swayed by the collective. So, I validate it with Taurus because Taurus is there, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's who I am. I've never been the type of person to give up my viewpoint just because other people believe something else, no matter how many people believe whatever else. And I've also never been the type of person to give up my viewpoint because someone who is more conditioned, aka classically trained and or educated, or someone who's viewed as smarter, says that something is the right way to go. Like, I remember my dad is a Virgo, and we have like not theosophical, like philosophical debates sometimes. And I remember one day we were talking about aliens, and he was like, if Stephen Hawking, the smartest man on the planet, says something, I'm going to believe what he says. And I'm like, I don't care who he is. Like, with me being my own person, with my own thinking, like logical, reasoning, rational brain, I'm not going to forfeit my own viewpoint just because someone who's quote unquote smarter than me says that, that's the way to go, especially when it comes to something hypothetical and theoretical. And my whole thing is, we're basing our interactions with other species on how we've treated each other down here. We're applying like earth and history and earth and logic to things outside of ourselves, which I was just like, that doesn't necessarily 100% have to be the case, because we don't know how things are in other places. And hey, maybe in other places they've already got over the racism issues and the issues of their division within their collective, and maybe they've come to a little bit of a more united front, and that's why they're out, I don't know, trying to make new friends, trying to diversify, trying to learn from other systems or whatever. I don't know. At the time, this was many years ago. New Year's, I went there. It would have been around like 20. It was at the new house. So it was after 2011, maybe around 2013 or 14. I think it would have been around 2013. Because 2014 I worked, and then from 2015 on I was on campus. So it would have been like around 2013 we had that conversation. So at that point, I didn't know anything about a lot of the stuff I know about. But innately, something with all aliens are bad and they're trying to come and conquer and rule and blah, 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 whatever. Like, I never fell into that narrative. And a lot of what we see in the media projects that fear of things outside of us. And I'm not going to say it's wrong, but all I'm going to say is like, I'm not just going to buy into that viewpoint because that's what's sold on TV and that's what sells tickets to movies. If there's no drama, it seems like people don't like it. It has to be dramatic to get views. And like personally in my everyday life, right, I don't necessarily need too much drama. I'm cool. Anyway, I think I'm gonna make. Oh, I don't want to make this the last one. I'm having so much fun pulling these and just seeing where it goes. Goodness, I don't want to stop. It's fine. It's almost 7 o'clock, and it's July, the 7th month. Where am I gonna start this time? This time we're gonna start in the middle. We're gonna go over to the court, and then we're gonna try to see what the major is gonna be. Ooh, goodness. Oh gosh. This is interesting. So the Ten of Cups up here and the Nine of Swords down here. Now the Nine of Swords in this deck is so grotesque. The Nine of Swords in this deck is worse than the Ten of Swords. Like, girl, like Kim. But the Nine of Swords is all about dark visions. Like in the book, that's literally what she put, dark visions. Oh, wow. We're talking about the media, we're talking about the Matrix, we're talking about programs. This is the Matrix. This is reality. Oof, girl, is it? Let's pull the court and let's see. The Knight of Cups over here with the Ten of Cups. Interesting. Oof, and the Father of Wands over here with this Nine of Swords. Very interesting. So I'm kind of sort of gonna go out on a limb and say this is the Matrix. This is reality. This is how things have been. This is how things can be. And we're sitting at this moment, at this boundary, at this intersection of how things are until we cross from one over into the other. We're kind of sort of at this tip. And I like it because this again is coming after the Fool have the wherewithal to stand and to increase the gravity of their light. Instead of a black hole, it's like a light hole. So instead of this point of intense gravity that sucks everything in, including the light, and that's why it appears black, it's like the opposite. There's this point that has this, it's like a flash, right? It's just pouring out light. And eventually, oh my gosh, it's the luminous void. It's the luminous void. Because it's like there's this black hole, but at the center of it, this light, and it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter and bigger and bigger and bigger within the heart of this black hole until it kind of sort of, there'll be a moment where it cancels it out. And the moment where the black hole is canceled out by the light hole is this in between moment. And this in between moment is where humanity makes its decision. And then, depending on what that decision is, either the light hole will collapse inside of the black hole and Earth gets wiped out, or the light hole wins out and it ushers in the new era, that Aquarian age that people are talking about. But it's a choice, right? It's not just going to happen. We have to do it. We got to do something. Like love and light is great, but action is better, right? Because we're on Earth, and the thing about Earth is it's dense, so we kind of got to do something, right? Consciousness hasn't quite yet reached that peak where, thoughts instantly become things and we don't got to do nothing to get what we want. It's like, we're not quite there yet, so we still got to do something. But this is the old and this is the new. This is the dark visions. And again, this is a bunch of personal stuff I'm putting. These are my personal beliefs. What's that? It's my opinion. It's what I see as fact. And you can see something as fact. There are multiple truths, right? Just like there are multiple realities. Some truths we more commonly accept as truth, and those truths become more of the collective experienced reality. Those things that remain the same between different timelines, we'll say, right? So, not too many folks will say the grass is purple, but they may be living in a world where the grass is purple with all the other people who think the grass is purple. But in a lot of parallel timelines, you might have green grass because that's one thing that's agreed upon by the upper majority of the collective. So we don't have to change the color of the grass. Now maybe other things can change, but part of the things that are more consistent are the things that are more consistently agreed upon again. So the dark vision again is seeing the end of one era. And I love it. I love that it's the that it's a cobra and with the wand, because it's the manifestation of deceptive programming that will have you see that when this snake falls, everything falls. When in reality, like, that's not the case. When this snake falls, it's the birth of a new age, and it's the birth of and it's not Nine of Swords, Dark Visions. It's actually Ten of Cups, unity. And from this space of unity, we move forward in a whole new direction. That's why we have this knight, which is movement. It's not a page, but that's why we have this knight. Whereas in the past, are predominantly currently reigning, are soon to be a memory reigning. We have this father, this king. The sons will rise and will take the world on a new path. A path that this king, this father, doesn't necessarily agree with. There's something very like aristocratic. Well, aristocratic is the word that came to my mind. But there's something very like bloodline royalty about this. But that's why this energy is so interesting. Because this Father of Wands inherited whatever this was. But this Knight of Cups is so radical in the fact that the people should lead themselves. The people should have more freedom. But this father is like, what do you mean? Like, the power and authority that we have over them, we've had for more generations than can be counted. And like, you are my son. I don't know why all of a sudden, like, you were raised as I was raised, as my father was raised, as his mother was raised, as it goes between fathers and mothers. It ain't all necessarily patrilineal. Because when you come into blood ties like this, you get into family, getting with family to keep the blood pure. But there's something about keeping the blood pure that this earth doesn't agree with. And that's why sometimes it'll introduce deformity. Because diversity, interconnectedness is the primary sort of function of this planet. And that's why it naturally on a genetic level rejects quote unquote purity. Like, too much purity is not a good thing. And maybe oh, sorry, that's just ah! I'm not I'm not going there. I'm not going to say it. It's fine. It doesn't need to be said. Okay, I'll say it. It's like this Knight of Cups is like, well, maybe I want my kids to have all of their fingers and toes and no extras. Like, this isn't how things are supposed to be. And the Father of Wands is like, so what if they have 6 toes and 13 fingers? They're fine. And this Knight of Cups is like, this, like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. There's also an energy of like, it's this storyline of like someone leaves the palace for the first time, because even this son was fed lies by this father. It's like this it's almost like the sun is put under the same programming as everyone else, but from a different perspective. Because the perspective here is, it's very capitalistic, for lack of a better word, in terms of like everything you do for money, you do for a paycheck. Your value is based on money, it's based on a paycheck, it's based on how big your house is, how expensive your car is, and how many you have of each. Whereas in reality, like those aren't really the things that completely 100% matter. And that's what quarantine and lockdown has given us an opportunity to, in some ways, experience. Now, the people who have bigger houses, who have, nicer things, may have had an easier time in quarantine, but at the same time, it's about more than just the house and the things. And the people who have had less, in an ideal world, they would come to see that it's more about, the people that they have in the house than it is about the things. But in a more realistic one, when it comes to the pressure of how to take care of things when not properly dissuaded, it builds up and it causes conflict and tension in those relationships that we're supposed to be coming to value. And again, it's a spectrum. So it's not to say that it hasn't, and it's not to be absolute either way. It's just the opportunity for a potential lesson to be learned out of many. But again, it's like this getting this perspective, this Son of Cups is, it's like it's getting this story that, like, you see these people, like they're like their eyes aren't even open, their eyes aren't even connected, they have worms for brains, like they need us to rule them, they can't do anything themselves. And this Knight of Cups is like, actually, I'm beginning to think that they can't do anything for themselves because of what we've done to them. And so now it's time for this, it's time for it to change. That's a story, okay? Don't take it literally. It's a story to accompany the energies about the shift in power. But again, it's like the doomsday scenario that some people are seeing now. It's this. It's not this. You're seeing the fall of one system, and this system is so ingrained energetically in what life on earth has become that without this system, when this falls, it's like everything falls apart. But if you tap into the rise of this, you'll be able to tap into this, where you don't have to buy into this. And again, this is another thing that those who bear light, and it's like there's a, like, bearing something as in carrying it, and bearing something. So there's a difference between those who bear light and those who birth light. This is the thing that those who birth light are on. And then those who bear light can come into this frequency after it's already birthed. And as more and more people come into this frequency, we'll start to see this dissipate. And again, it's like this vision didn't need to be questioned when this was the predominant operating power. But as we're shifting into this is shifting into this. So this could have been effective under this because that's what humans do. We adapt. And even like spiritually, on some sense, and mentally, we adapt to this. But it's time for us to free ourselves into integrating and incorporating something. So those who birth the light, divine mothers and fathers, you know, get to it. And those who bear it, those who carry it, divine midwives and mid husbands. Is that a word? Be prepared. Because it's going to be shifting. And again, with that moon, as it becomes a predominant frequency, this becomes less and less necessary. And this transition happens in a way that it didn't necessarily have to happen before. Right? We don't need war anymore to get things done. Like, we really don't. The nights don't have to be as dark, and the towers don't have to be as cataclysmic as they were in the past. Because as we awaken, as the consciousness shifts, we open ourselves up to less harsh possibilities because our sensitivities are increased, right? It only had to be that bad in the past because it took something of that magnitude to break through the veil. But now that it's thinning, it doesn't take any. It's like literally like, Spirit can be like, hey, yo, like, don't eat the cheeseburger. Oh my gosh, please don't. Don't start with me, brain. Let's say it's a bad cheeseburger. Hashtag not all cheeseburgers are bad. It's like, hey, like maybe you shouldn't go there this time. And you can just listen, right? It doesn't be like, well, this cheeseburger looks delicious. That place looks fine, so I'm gonna go for it. And then boom, tower moment happens. Like, right? That's why tower moments had to happen. But let's like we become sensitive enough. Hey, don't go there. Hey, don't do that. Okay, bet. And then like you see, like there needs to be no tower moment because you literally just listen. Now, when it comes to growth and evolution and learning lessons, that's when things get more interesting and complicated. And that's what this justice energy a few rounds back was about, understanding the complexity of things. And the new energy, it can be that simple, but in the one that we're exiting now, it may not necessarily be. So that's where that wisdom sort of comes in. So if I had to guess majors, I'm gonna say tower or death here, star or sun here, also a fool in either space, or justice. Let's see. What's this? Okay, we got did I that was the fool last time. So justice came out again. And that's the shifting between these two. And again, it's like the darker cat is getting even lighter. It's like it's right here before. Or it's right here now. Before the cat was like completely dark, but now the light is coming up to it's nearing the space of the heart, which is interesting. And this is still just as light. I'm not seeing this get any darker, but this is getting lighter. It's around the heart. At the highest, it's at the heart. At the lowest, it's at about the solar plexus. And then over here, we get temperance. Okay. Wasn't necessarily feeling temperance, but when it comes to alchemy and when it comes to the shifting and the pouring, this makes sense. So I wasn't thinking enough. Sorry. I could have thought about it a little bit more. Could have eventually made it to temperance energy because temperance makes sense. But this is about the mirroring, right? And this is a gradual process because we can't, again, in this denser energy, we have to accommodate for how people learn. And people don't necessarily learn when you do it for them. And so that's why this temperance is here because it's a gradual process. It's an increasing alchemy, but it quickens as more and more people fall into. And this is purely spirit because your physical and your mental are not enough to break this. It's just not enough. And as the heart of humanity has been closed for so long, so too has its spirit been weakened. This is a purely spiritual concept because it's nothing that we've had here yet. It can kind of sort of begin to trickle down to the mental, and that's starting. And as that's starting to happen, it's also starting to happen in the physical. And it's like we can see actions change in the physical, but we may not necessarily yet vision. But again, I think we can. I honestly think we can. It's becoming more and more prevalent. But yeah, this is interesting. I kind of sort of want to end it here as a note for the hope of humanity, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do one more, and it's going to be the last one to wrap it all up. And I'm not going to pull any final messages. It'll just be this. This will be the final message because then I'll put them away. Uh, yeah. So these are court cards and aces, minors, minus courts, and majors. So I want to set my intention, but oh, well, yeah, just the last message. The last thing that we're going to get to. And we'll do one more and stop there. Some of these have so few cards. It's like I'm glad I haven't gotten the same ones back to back. I was a little bit worried about how that would work. And one more, like a half cut. This will be the final message. This was really, really, really fun. I really enjoyed this. Extremely. It was a pleasure being with you today. Honestly, it kind of was. I'm loving this energy. Even when it was a little darker. You know, sometimes those things need to be faced. We'll do it. Yeah, like how not a single card has fallen out since I've done this. Oh, well, not looking at it. Let's see if I can do that quick. I don't know if y'all saw it. I closed my eyes. As soon as I was like, I like how not a single card has fallen out. I've done this, and then one flips over. See, these cards, they be messing with me. I promise. I'll be like, okay, I'll shuffle for a minute. And I'm like, well, if nothing falls out and three more, and then I'll just pull and then a card will fall out. It's like, why y'all always got to give y'all a deadline? Hello? Why I always got to say something before y'all want to cooperate? Oh, okay, well. I'm not going to take this. This is a lot of cards, but I will note this, and we're going to run through this really quick. This is a lot of majors. This is a lot of majors. So the Fool is the start of something new. A la High School Musical, Dell at the bottom of the deck. Sorry, not sorry. It's like you served your purpose, you know, but it's cool. We got the lessons now. The Hangman. So, not yet hopping and popping, but the time is almost here because this bat's eyes are open and it's nighttime. I don't know how long it's been nighttime, but the freaks come out at night. And then we have the Star. Oh, love it. Is it another dark card? No, it's the Chariot. The Chariot to me, this is giving me Apollo energy. Right? And the Chariot, it's like it's the birth of a new day. There's a new sun that Apollo has hitched to its cart. And that's why this bat is sort of like waiting, even though it's nighttime, and that's why the star is here. It's like the star is giving whispers of a brighter future, and this bat is listening. The Hangman is listening to what's coming. That's why it doesn't necessarily move and operate in this system the way that others necessarily would, because Apollo has a new sun hitched to its cart, and it's coming around. It's a darker sun, is what came to my mind. But it's not that it's any less bright or any less vibrant. It's darker because it leaves more room for interpretation and it leaves more room for choice, right? It's like the choice that we had before was kind of sort of an illusion of choice, and now we're getting actual choice. But that's why it's important for some of us to align with our missions now before the system changes, because it'll just help us be a little bit more dedicated to actually seeing it come about and not stopping when things get a little bit brighter. It's like, no, we need complete change. And then there's that Wheel of Fortune. Like I said, it's coming. And I love that we have the sun at the bottom of the wheel and the moon at the top, as I talked about Apollo dragging that chariot across the sky with temperance. So it's not that darkness is necessarily going to go away, but we're going to be reshifting the scales so that things are a lot lighter and they're not as dark, and it's more rewarding and profitable to do what's right, or it'll be at the very least equally as rewarding and profitable than it is to sort of take advantage of people. And last but not least is that Hermit. And it works at its best when we can do our part to again seed that light, to birth that light in these moments of darkness before it comes to be. We all have our own chariot and we're all Apollo. But it's like, what light do you choose to shine on the world? New light or old light? Okay. Now we get that last message. I could put all these cards away. That was the final message. Okay, there we go. I'm trying not to look at it. I'll close my eyes. Maybe y'all saw it. I mean, I guess I could just start with this one. Oh goodness, gosh, golly, gee, jeepers, gee willikers, man, really? I always got to come in and try to ruin somebody's fun. But let's look at this in a positive aspect because I'm feeling it. Because that was so positive. I'm not going to come in and let a devil ruin anything. I was just talking about commitment, right? And ties. Um, this devil energy, oh gosh, this may sound kind of bad, but it speaks to the energy that we need to be in when it comes to us making sure we do things in the right way. Not all ties are bad. It's like not Capricorn energy isn't always bad. It's a Capricornian energy. Capricorn is cardinal earth. It's all about building and establishing something brand new that will last for many, many, many years. It's about ushering in that golden age and the dedication that it requires. This isn't a hierophant because this isn't something that we're not getting missions and directives and orders from some other man connected to the divine. The devil is a closer connection, typically to something less than divine, but it is the energy of pure connection, a direct tie. But again, it speaks to the sort of drive that we need to have. And I think it's going to be this because it's like things are going to be getting brighter. Things are going to be loosening up. But it's going to be important for us to not quit before it's over, right? Because this isn't one of those like, oh, like, let's say a flashlight is dying, so you flip the batteries in the flashlight and it lights back up for a moment, but then it's like they die again. Like we need a whole new, like we need a fresh pair of batteries. This isn't a flip the batteries and see if it works type of situation. We need a fresh pair of batteries, and this is making sure we have that fresh pair of batteries. And up here we have Temperance, the angel and the devil, and Temperance literally just came out. So again, I think temperance is all about alchemy and it's all about alchemizing. Temperance is about using this energy in a way that benefits us rather than in a way that detriments, that plays to our detriment. Um, Next is the Seven of Swords. And again, the Seven of Swords is about taking the sting out of this energy, no longer falling prey to the shadow of this. It's like, oof, it's not necessarily good for the animal, but it's like if you get a cat declawed so that it can't like scratch you or anything anymore. It's like that energy. It's like you're keeping the cat, but you're taking away its ability to hurt you. Now, in a more realistic and in a more humane sense, again, this is about ties and bonds. And so you're not being bound to the shadow energy, but with this, it's about alchemizing our own shadow so that it no longer plays against us. So that again, with the chariot, it's about hitching the light and the shadow to the same cart to get the chariot to move forward. And the charioteer is the one who has to do this. And then we have that Six of Wands. We got the victory. Six of Wands, Seven of Swords. Like as we limit this energy's ability to slow us down and to deter us, as we gain control over this energy rather than having this energy be in control over us, as we do all that alchemy, we come into this moment of victory. Again, with that chariot where we can move forward in a positive way. We have that Knight of Cups again with the Ace of Cups. The Knight of Cups is the emissary, but we take after we get a taste of this light, we won't want to go back to the darkness. And that's where I'm going to leave this off. That wasn't necessarily like a final. Well, it was what it was. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good, almost said weekend. It is Wednesday. So yeah, it's almost the weekend. It's hump day. You know, and if you ain't got nobody to hump, then hump yourself. Sorry. Anyway, um, yeah, I hope you all are doing well and you're doing whatever you need to do to align with that well doing. And also, I hope that you're doing whatever you need to do to keep that well doing moving forward in a sustainable way rather than moving forward in an unsustainable way, aka putting veils over your own face or, whatever I've already talked about. And I guess again, the story can kind of sort of shift because we've already progressed and proceeded past the point of all of that Mars and Pisces sort of questioning that everybody was sort of in. So if you are part of what has shifted our collective so far, thank you for your service. I'm right there with you. And for those who would, come to the light side, who would leave hope and desperation and despair in the past, and choose to see things in a brighter way. And maybe like you got to feel it before you can see it. So those of you who are coming into the feeling, welcome. Feels much better, doesn't it? And it also puts you in. It's interesting because I feel like I have power in the situation, but I don't have any more power than I had before. But in a metaphysical sense, on a spiritual sense, I have a lot more powerful than I have a lot more power than I did before. I'm infinitely more powerful than I was before. Um, because now I get to choose more so where I put my power instead of falling into the either or that was sort of always there. It's a wonderful feeling. It may not necessarily, start you off feeling like whatever, but the more you stick with it, and as you begin to see the world shift and turn, and as you begin to see people move, and as you begin to see acts more commonplace, more highlighted, more proliferating of open heartedness between peoples, and not just people and animals or people and their own people. Because we've always done that. We've always been like, oh my gosh, the animal. But then we see people that we treat like animals, and we treat actual animals and the people that we see as animals. It's crazy. It's wild. Anyway, everything I just said and more. Bye.